The world doesn't care about your feelings. It will exploit your weaknesses and break you if you let it. That's the cold, hard truth, and no one is going to tell you this. They'll sell you the lie that vulnerability, empathy, and emotional openness are strengths, that being nice and kind will win you friends, relationships, and success. But let me ask you this, how's that working out for you? In a world where everyone is looking for an advantage, where power dynamics play out in every interaction, emotional softness is a liability. If you don't understand this, if you don't learn how to embrace the cold, calculated mindset of someone who can't be manipulated, you will be crushed. And I'm not talking about some abstract, philosophical warning. This is a survival strategy. Machiavelli's teachings weren't just for kings and rulers. His insights apply to every man trying to carve out his place in a world that will eat you alive if you're too weak to fight back. Most men will never learn how to wield power in the way Machiavelli warned. They will remain slaves to their emotions, at the mercy of others. But you have a choice. You can either stay weak, or you can become stone. The question is, which path will you choose? You've been lied to. Being emotionally open, empathetic, and nice won't get you anywhere. In fact, it will destroy you. That's the myth society wants you to believe. From the moment you're old enough to understand relationships, you're taught that the key to success and happiness is being emotionally available, understanding, and supportive. You're told that if you just listen, if you're kind, if you put others' needs before your own, you'll be rewarded with love, friendship, and success. But here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't work that way. The truth is, being nice is a form of weakness. It's an invitation for others to take advantage of you. Whether it's in dating, friendships, or your career, emotional vulnerability is like a neon sign that says, "Come take what you want from me." The modern-day nice guy is perpetually stuck in a cycle of self-sacrifice and disappointment, believing that being understanding and always doing the right thing will lead to fulfillment. But it won't. In fact, it's the opposite. Women, friends, even coworkers, they don't respect emotional softness. They'll exploit it. You're not seen as a strong, reliable man. You're seen as a doormat. And no one has ever been celebrated for being a doormat. Machiavelli, however, offers a completely different view. He understood power, manipulation, and the cold, hard truth of human nature. He knew that emotional openness is not a strength, it's a weakness. Rather than being vulnerable or emotionally available, Machiavelli believed a man's greatest asset is his ability to detach, to be ruthless when necessary, and to control his emotions. Emotional detachment, cold calculation, and power plays are what lead to real influence. The myth of the nice guy has one goal: to make you easy to manipulate. It's time to realize that there's a far more dangerous, and ultimately more rewarding, path. Machiavelli didn't just advise leaders to be powerful. He warned them never to be weak, never to show vulnerability. In The Prince, Machiavelli argues that emotions, whether love, fear, or compassion, are liabilities, not assets. They cloud judgment and can lead to disastrous decisions. The true ruler, according to Machiavelli, is one who operates on cold calculation, where emotions are not the driving force, but tools to be manipulated when needed. Consider this famous line from The Prince. A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise. He will find a way to justify it. This isn't just cynicism, it's pragmatic realism. Leaders, and by extension, men in the modern world, must understand that emotions and promises don't hold weight in the pursuit of power. Emotional attachment clouds judgment, and it is through calculated actions that you secure your position in life. Let's take Cesare Borgia, one of the most notorious figures of the Italian Renaissance, as an example. Borgia is often cited as the embodiment of Machiavellian principles. He was cold, ruthless, and strategic. At one point, he had his own brother poisoned to secure his power. To outsiders, this might seem inhumane or unethical, but to Borgia, it was just a necessary move to ensure his survival and dominance. In fact, Machiavelli praised Borgia's ability to keep his emotions in check, calling him a master of power. He didn't act based on moral sentiment. He acted based on what was necessary. And that's exactly the kind of mindset you need to thrive, not just in power struggles, but in any competitive environment. From business to relationships, emotions may seem like a natural part of the human experience. But Machiavelli believed they were chains, tying you to the whims of others. A man who is too attached to his emotions will be constantly swayed by external forces, by others' desires, opinions, and manipulations. A true ruler, on the other hand, remains emotionally detached and thus remains in control. The reality is this: emotions are not your ally. They are tools to be wielded, but never the foundation of your decisions. Power lies in control of yourself and of others. If you can't control your emotions, you are already a puppet on someone else's strings. And you'll never even see the strings until it's too late. That's the hidden truth of life that Machiavelli understood and taught. In a world where most men are emotionally reactive, driven by impulses, insecurities, and societal pressures, the few who can control their emotions and act with cold logic hold all the power. They dictate the terms of every interaction, every relationship, and every decision. Why is emotional control so important? Because the world is ruthless, and it will exploit any weakness it can find. In the Machiavellian worldview, the emotionally reactive man is like an open wound in a hostile environment, easily attacked and torn apart. This is especially true in relationships, where emotions run high and vulnerable men are easily manipulated. Consider the countless men who get caught up in toxic relationships, driven by an unchecked desire for affection, approval, or validation. These men are often blinded by their emotions, allowing their desires and fears to cloud their judgment. They give too much, sacrifice their own needs, and compromise their dignity, all in the name of love or companionship. But in reality, they are being exploited. Women, like society at large, are adept at sensing emotional weakness. And while that may sound harsh, it's a cold truth. Empathy and emotional vulnerability can be used against you. In relationships, men who are emotionally reactive often become the targets of manipulation, whether by guilt-tripping, emotional blackmail, or simply playing into the man's insecurities. The more emotionally invested you are, the more power you give away to others. And when you give away power, you put yourself at risk of being exploited, manipulated, not only by women, but by friends, co-workers, and society at large. The emotionally detached man, on the other hand, does not fall into these traps. He is not swayed by emotional highs and lows. He stands firm, making decisions based on logic, not impulse. This is the real power, the ability to stay calm, to detach, and to assess the situation without letting emotions dictate your actions. And this is what Machiavelli understood. He didn't just teach us how to win power. He taught us how to survive. Machiavelli's lesson is simple yet profound. Emotions are a weakness in a world that doesn't care about your feelings. If you are too emotionally involved, you will never see the game for what it truly is. You will become a pawn. But if you can adopt the stone-like mindset, you can master the game. You can control your emotions, and by extension, control your fate. This is the hidden truth. To navigate modern relationships, to survive in the ruthless game of life, you must detach yourself emotionally. You must learn to control your feelings, even in the face of manipulation. Those who fail to do so will always be at the mercy of others. Those who succeed will become the puppet masters of their own fate. Take a look around at the rise of simp culture, a phenomenon where men are conditioned to seek validation through emotional labor, constantly giving without receiving. This behavior isn't just weak, it's dangerous. These men are often trapped in a cycle of offering their time, money, and emotional energy, all for the mere hope that they'll win the approval of women or society. But women don't respect simps. In fact, they see them as sources of free validation, using them to feed their own egos while offering nothing in return. The nice guy, pouring out his emotions and devotion, ends up stuck in a one-sided relationship where his worth is taken for granted. This is where the Machiavellian mindset becomes critical. The cold as stone approach is your shield against the manipulative forces in modern relationships. Women, society, and even your friends are all operating in a game of emotional leverage. If you give in to emotional impulsivity, if you're too willing to offer sympathy and empathy, you give others the power to control you. They know you're emotionally invested, and they use that to their advantage. Machiavelli understood that. Emotional control is the key to navigating complex social dynamics. It's not that you should be heartless. It's that you must operate from a place of self-preservation and calculation. In a relationship, you need to be able to identify manipulation and pull back before you get too emotionally entangled. If you can't detach yourself and maintain power in your interactions, you'll inevitably find yourself taken advantage of. But this isn't just about romance. The cold as stone mindset applies to all aspects of a man's life, his career, his friendships, his reputation. Whether you're dealing with a boss who's pushing you to do more than you're paid for, or a friend who's always asking for favors, the principle remains the same. Emotional detachment is key. Machiavelli's cold calculation helps you navigate these challenges, protecting yourself from being drained by others. In this modern world, if you're emotionally reactive, you're constantly at risk of being manipulated. But if you embrace emotional control, you can turn the tables and become the master of your own fate. Every time you give in to emotional weakness, the world takes another piece of you. The longer you wait to change, the harder it becomes to get it back. The trap most men fall into is deceptively simple: emotional vulnerability, over-attachment to relationships, and the constant search for approval. These are the traps that chip away at your agency, your power, and your very sense of self. Let me ask you this: how many men have you seen lose themselves in a relationship, only to emerge years later broken, bitter, and regretful? Men who give their time, their energy, their very soul to a woman, only to watch her walk away, leaving them empty-handed? These are the men who couldn't recognize the trap when it was right in front of them. They gave too much, too soon, emotionally investing in someone, or something that wasn't worthy of their time. They were willing to sacrifice their dignity, their power, and their self-respect in the hopes of securing affection or validation. But the world doesn't reward men for being emotionally available. It exploits them. A man who is too emotionally attached to someone else's opinion, whether that's a woman, a friend, or even society at large, surrenders his control. He becomes a puppet to their desires, a pawn in a game he doesn't even realize he's playing. The more you chase validation, the more you sell yourself short. And the more you compromise your integrity for the sake of connection, the weaker you become. Take the man who constantly bends to his girlfriend's will, afraid to stand up for his own needs, or the guy who does everything for his friends, even at the cost of his own well-being, just to feel accepted. At first, it feels like love, like loyalty. But over time, the imbalance becomes apparent. He's drained, he's exhausted, and worse, he's powerless. This is the trap. It's the illusion that giving in, being emotionally open, and seeking approval will somehow earn you respect or love. It won't. It never does. Instead, it makes you vulnerable to manipulation, disrespect, and ultimately, powerlessness. The real danger is that once you're trapped in this cycle, it becomes harder and harder to escape. The longer you stay emotionally entangled, the more you lose yourself. But there's hope. You can escape this trap. You can take control. It starts with recognizing the need for emotional detachment, the very principle that Machiavelli championed. The question is, are you ready to break free? Embrace the power of detachment and watch as the world becomes your playground. Ignore it, and it will grind you into dust. The truth is, if you want to escape the cycle of emotional weakness and take control of your life, you need to cultivate a mindset that is cold, calculated, and unwavering. You need to adopt the cold as stone mentality that Machiavelli espoused. This isn't about being heartless. It's about building the emotional armor necessary to navigate a world that thrives on manipulation. The good news is, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Here's how you can start building the power to detach and take control. 1. Master emotional control. First step is to recognize that your emotions are powerful, but not in the way society wants you to believe. Emotions are like fire. They can either fuel you or burn you alive. You need to train yourself to recognize when emotions start to overtake your reason and learn to manage them. This isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about controlling them. Start by practicing mindfulness. Whether through meditation or self-reflection, take time each day to observe your emotional responses. When you feel anger, fear, or frustration building up, pause. Ask yourself, what's really driving this emotion? More often than not, you'll find that the trigger is insecurity or a desire for validation. By identifying the root causes of your emotions, you can begin to separate your actions from your feelings. Just as Machiavelli advises in The Prince. 2. Set boundaries and stick to thema. Man without boundaries is a man who is constantly at the mercy of others. Boundaries are your line in the sand. They are the limit to how much you are willing to give emotionally, physically, or mentally. Without boundaries, you'll always be dragged into other people's games. Start small. Set clear limits on how much emotional energy you're willing to invest in any relationship, whether romantic, social, or professional. Don't allow anyone to drain you without reciprocation. Be unapologetic in enforcing these boundaries. If someone oversteps, step back. Protect your emotional space at all costs. 3. Build mental toughness. Machiavelli knew that to hold power, a man must be unshakable. This mental toughness is built over time, through self-discipline and resilience. It means becoming comfortable with discomfort, whether that's pushing through a tough workout, handling stress without snapping, or taking on challenges without seeking validation from others. A simple but effective practice for mental toughness is delayed gratification. In a world that encourages instant pleasure, deny yourself the easy rewards. Focus instead on long-term goals and take consistent action toward them, even when it's tough. Whether it's working on your career, building physical strength, or improving your skills, put your energy into mastering your own growth. 4. Make decisions based on logic, not emotion. Emotions cloud judgment. They lead to impulsive decisions that, in hindsight, often result in regret. Machiavelli believed in the power of reason over emotion. A powerful man does not act in haste. He assesses the situation, weighs the options, and makes decisions based on long-term strategy. This requires practice, especially in emotionally charged situations. The next time you're faced with a high-pressure decision, step back. Take a few moments to breathe. Ask yourself, what does logic tell me? Never let your emotions dictate your actions. 5. Focus on personal growth and self-mastery. Remember that power comes from within. Focus on building your skills, your health, and your wealth. Create a vision for your life and dedicate yourself to it. As Machiavelli wrote, the wise man does it once, but the fool does finally. In other words, start now. Don't wait for the right moment to change. Build habits that put your growth first, whether it's through reading, fitness, or learning new skills. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, when you dedicate your energy to your own development rather than chasing external validation, you'll find that the world starts to shift. You become more selective in your relationships, more in control of your decisions, and more at ease with who you are. This is the path to power. It won't be easy, but it's worth every ounce of effort. By detaching emotionally, setting boundaries, and mastering your mind, you'll stop being a pawn in someone else's game and start playing to win. The time to act is now. What are you waiting for? Are you ready to leave behind weakness and embrace the cold, calculated path to power? Because make no mistake, emotional detachment isn't just an advantage. It's a necessity. In today's world, where manipulation, emotional exploitation, and societal pressures are everywhere, those who refuse to adopt the cold as stone mindset will find themselves crushed under the weight of their own vulnerability. They'll become pawns in a game they don't even realize they're playing, always chasing approval, always reacting emotionally, and always one step behind that. The harsh truth is that most men will never understand what it truly means to wield power the Machiavellian way. They'll continue to believe the lies that kindness, empathy, and emotional openness will lead them to success. But those are the very traits that keep them trapped. In relationships, careers, and life, they will be led by their emotions driven by impulses and insecurities, and that will cost them everything. Now, you have a choice. You can continue to be a prisoner to your emotions, a slave to the whims of others, or you can embrace the stone. You can choose power over passivity, logic over impulse, control over chaos. The question is, will you rise to the challenge? Will you stop allowing the world to shatter you, and instead become the one who controls the game? It's time to embrace the stone. Will you choose power, or will you let the world shatter you? The decision is yours.